And welcome. It is Thursday, October 20th. We are continuing our conversations with the candidates, a series we have been doing all month long here at What's Up Noop, chatting with dozens upon dozens of candidates, all the way from your local school committee and all the way up to Congressional District 1, 2, governor, lieutenant governor, and everything in between, as well as focusing on some of the questions in the communities as well. Our full schedule of all of our guests, as well as the opportunity to go back and look at, watch, or listen to any interview is all available on whatsupnoop.com. By the end of it, in about 2 weeks, we will have completed about 72 of these in October. We have 105 invites out. So it has been a busy month. Head to whatsupnoop.com for all the research so you can compare and contrast your candidates. Head to vote.ri.gov where you can find out where you can early vote between now and November 7th. And where you can vote on November 8th, as well as to see your sample ballot and get to know some of these candidates that you'll be voting for, as well as the local and statewide questions on the back of the ballot. Today, we are up in Portsmouth, and we are with Charles Levesque, who I was just getting to know, and the Portsmouth Democrats website is such a great tool if people are looking to get to know the Democrat candidates. Because there's such great bios on there, and I'm sure you were part of this putting this together, but I learned so much about you by reading that bio today.
I was not much to putting it together. I am new to the party right now in the sense that I was in the party very seriously in 80, 90, 2000, and then 2011 I became a magistrate judge. And so I was pretty much obliged by law to stay out of politics. And actually, I was doing all of the kind of communication stuff and putting together bios. They're doing a lot better now. They really are. I mean, the stuff they have now, I'm going, whoa, boy, they've learned a lot since I've been gone.
Yeah, they made me sound good.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I would recommend to everyone that they take a look at the bios. I am very, very pleased to be running for office with the people I'm running with. I guess, so.
I could read your whole bio, but that would take up all of our time, and then we wouldn't. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself and share some of the things that you think are important, and perhaps tie in why you decided to run for Portsmouth Town Council.
Nobody ever suggests that they're going to turn it over to me to shorten an introduction.
You can take as much time as you want.
But I did, send along. I actually learned how somebody taught me on my phone how to use the microphone and just talk to do. And so that's just, it was kind of a question. So who am I? Charles Levesque. I was born in Portsmouth. I have lived in Portsmouth all of my life, except for when I was in college and in law school. I went to Portsmouth High School, graduated. I went to the University of Rhode Island. I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in English. And then I went to Loyola Law School and got a Juris Doctor. So beginning in 1981, I joined my father in the practice of law. In 1988, one of the great honors of my life, the town of Portsmouth elected me to the town council, and they re-elected me in 1990. 1992, I ran for state representative from a portion of Portsmouth and some of Bristol, and I was fortunate enough to be elected then. I stayed in office until the redistricting in 2022, in which apparently because of my popularity, they pretty much tried to redistrict me out of office. And so anyway, I ended up running for state senate, which had really changed phenomenally as the seat is pretty much still constituted, which was almost all of Portsmouth. Previously, it had not been. I was unsuccessful that first election. I ran again. I was successful. And then I was defeated, as I like to say, a voter-approved leave of absence in 2010. In 2011, I was appointed a magistrate. My reason for running for office is that people always said, "Oh, you just love it, don't you?" Well, the fact is, I don't know that I ever thought about my feelings towards running for office, but I do know that over the last several years, um, my commitment to democracy has grown, has been more self-evident. I think it was something I never really thought I had to question. That democracy, that's my dryer. It will stop in a second.
It's okay.
Um, the commitment to democracy. So I just had this feeling. I was just sitting saying, well, you haven't done anything. So why don't you see if you can do something? So I called up Len Katzman, who's the chair out in Portsmouth and a good friend of mine and one of the best town council people I've ever known. And I said, Len, if you need me, I want to step up. And I actually kind of thought it would be more likely to be a school committee position. And in that regard, I mean, I am so frustrated with people banning books, doing things that discriminate against human beings who happen to be transgender, doing things that happen to be, discriminatory against people who identify as lesbian or, whatever, or questioning. That I said, I'll be in a position to say, no, we're not doing that. We should never do it anywhere, but we're not going to do it in Portsmouth. And but Len said that there was actually an opening in the town council. He suggested that I run for that. I said, whatever you need. And so that's it. That's where I am.
Excellent. One of the fascinating things with your background, I'm sure I'm not the first one to bring it up, but your family must have some kind of record of family members that have served in the House or Senate in the General Assembly.
I think that there are probably some old Yankees going back on the West Bay that have gone longer, but I mean, just briefly, my dad was a state senator from Portsmouth, and I worked in practice law with him from 1980 until he passed away in 1993. My sister was a state representative. She was also a lawyer. She actually, with my brother George, had the effrontery to move over to Jamestown. But my sister Mary was the representative from there, and she and I practiced law together. She ultimately passed away in 2001. And my brother George, then, while my sister was still alive and she decided not to run again, my brother George decided to run, which my sister did not want him to do. But he did. And George, if you didn't know George was a very bright guy, but he was actually a regular guy. And so I remember people, when we both were in the legislature, coming up to me and going, "Hey, Chuck, your brother, he's a regular guy." And I'm like, "Well, what am I?" And he was 4 years older, and everybody thought he was younger than me.
Yeah.
So anyway, my brother Ern was on the school committee for 4 years. So yeah, we can't hold down a job, but we have. And I mean, I think we viewed it as, I don't think you should ever run for office unless you think you can do a good job. And I think all of us thought at a given time we would and could do a good job. And then we asked people to support us on it. And fortunately, we were very successful.
So public service certainly runs in your family's blood.
I'm not sure genetically if that's true, but yes.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
A DNA thing.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for all your years. I mean, just years of public service to you as well as everybody in your family. What do you think the biggest opportunities are in Portsmouth right now?
Well, again, I mean, I think one of the first things I want to stress is having a very open democratic process, a recognition that whatever happens in the election, that's what happens. I mean, democracy does not guarantee you a good government. It doesn't threaten you with a bad government. It's government of your choice. So you get an opportunity to pick who you want to, govern. I think I want to be a person, if I'm elected, that is, people always use the term transparent, but is visible, lets people know why and what I'm doing. If they want to contest it, I want to give them that opportunity. And I want to, as one of my best friends said to me when I first ran back in 1988, he said, Charlie, you're pretty bright, and I figured you'd pay attention, so I voted for you. And I was like, well, okay, I guess that. But I think I'm pretty bright. I've got a lot of experience in government, and I think I can bring that to a very good group of people, hopefully the Democrats, who I think we can work very well. What do we want to accomplish? Well, certainly I think our commitment has been to maintain the quality that Portsmouth has. What is that quality? Particularly, I think we want to maintain a good educational system for our children. We want to have a place where our seniors are living in safety, that is a comfortable place for them to live. They feel secure, that we do all things necessary to accomplish that. And then generally, I do have a couple of pipe dreams.
Yeah, let's hear them.
Well, because they may get a lot of, I was pretty instrumental in the Little Anthony Road. Well, the access to it is rather small and discreet, but it's a estuary there that is open up and has a lot of wildlife growing in it. It wasn't my idea. Some people brought it to me, but I was the rep and then senator, and basically we got it done. It's a beautiful area, but it's really kind of a secret. So I would like to see more people aware of it. When I was a kid, the area in Portsmouth known as Fort Butts was a place where kids went to smoke and get into fights after school. It's actually a historic Revolutionary War monument. And I'd like to see that more recognized. Another place when I was a kid was an area called Founders Brook. Founders Brook actually recognizes the Anne Hutchinson coming to Portsmouth and creating, while it was sexist, it was only males, one of the first democratic governments established in this country, if not the first, on the Portsmouth Compact. Relatively, well, I would say pretty much unknown. Most people don't know it's there, even if you live in. There's also a monument on West Main Road. It is referred to as the Black Regiment. The Black Regiment was a group of black and freedmen and Native Americans who fought on the side of the American colonies, Rhode Island, against the British in the Revolutionary War. I don't know how much it is really acknowledged. And then not finally, because there are others, but one of the things I'm always kind of been interested in, the property that is known as the Old Glen in Portsmouth. If you go to the very end of it, there's a very natural amphitheater at the end of it. A beautiful hillside down to what I've always kind of imagined might be a little theater, perhaps a little music area that you could do. If you've ever been over to Warren, they have the clamshell, and it's great. And a lot of people from town get to go there, and it's a very social activity for a lot of the people there. I always thought it's just natural, it's there. I don't think you'd have to, there are wires, but I think you could probably do some sort of solar connection if you were going to do any amplification. And I'm not saying that the proposal is amplification, although there aren't that many neighbors in the area. But certainly when you talk about amplified music, people get nervous. But I think it would be just a very nice area for something like Common Sense Point does with the music. Not Narrows is probably more sophisticated over in Fall River.
Well,
But
Ballard Park in Newport used to do something like that. Ballard Park used to have little concerts and theater and kids activities and out in the park there.
And all of it would be possible. I mean, we're coming out of COVID. I do think people want to be, have opportunities to do things that are social. And so I think we could do this very low maintenance. I mean, I think you'd have to have some sort of construction, some sort of, building there. And that's the last one for the dryer.
3.
But that would be it. And then essentially there is plenty of area to park. It would not be, I'm not talking about an enclosed place, so it would be only for the good weather days. Spring, summer. But again, and the Democrats currently on the council have talked about trying to improve low impact visiting to the town, which would be tourism and that type of thing. Having different places where people want to go, and then having very high class restaurants in the area might be helpful. I got one other thing on that regard that I want to talk about, which is I'd also like to try to figure out how we can really incentivize having all of the public accommodations, but particularly restaurants in town, be entirely accessible to people with movement disabilities, movement limitations. I just think that it's kind of difficult if I'm right now. If you made a physical improvement, not only would you have to pay the money, but somebody might come in and say, well, you made the improvement, that's more taxable. That's an additional tax on that. So what I'd like to see if we can do something that say, one, not only will you not have to pay the fees, and maybe we could even try to, waive any sort of zoning requirements if there's a setback problem or anything like that. But also that once completed, it's not going to be included in your assessment, so that you won't have to pay additional taxes. And so that we have a community that really anybody can have free access to go in, not have to worry about it when they're thinking about going out at night. Always at a place I can get into, or my aunt can get into, my grandmother can get into, whatever. So that's another thing I'd kind of like to look into.
I can see, and I'm writing the tagline down now, the most accessible town in Rhode Island.
What's that again?
I'm writing the tagline for you down right now. Most accessible town in Rhode Island.
Let me tell you something. I think that would be a very attractive thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and I would hope that people, it is one thing to be that. It's another thing for people who have accessibility issues to be happy to know that. But I also think that if you're in a community, the fact that even if you don't know them, that somebody can get in and out of a place should make you feel good. Should be a part of, me saying, well, my town cares. My town's a good town. My town tries to do, the best to be a place that's open and available for anybody. So, and we could have, because we have the little signs that say birthplace of American democracy, and then we could have below it, and the most accessible town in Portsmouth in Rhode Island. And, we'd have it covered and we could do it cheaply.
With a lot of your other ideas, first of all, I'm also, it seems like you enjoy history and appreciate history, as do I. I'm on the board of Fort Adams Trust in Newport. But it seems like a lot of your ideas, you want to celebrate what makes Portsmouth unique, and what you want to celebrate Portsmouth's history more.
I would say yes. I mean, the thing is, Portsmouth, as you know, is not a town with a downtown as a community. It has probably the schools are the greatest aspect of it recognizing itself as a body politic or community. So one of the ways you can, and I think there are a great number of people who have moved here, and I'm happy they're here, because it's such a beautiful place. Almost, it's a camelback, as you probably know. So both on either side of the island, you can basically get a nice sloping lot and put a house on it, and you have a gorgeous view of a sunset on one side and the sunrise on the other. Oh, there was one more. So anyway, but that's not a community. And a lot of people, if you're ever going by the Sconnet River Bridge, you see about 20,000 cars heading out to Boston, I think, for the most part. So they are not necessarily coming back to a community. They live here, but it's not. So I think when you have various things like this, people can start becoming aware of who the other people are. And, a lot of these things would be, I think, attractive for local residents. Green animals is attractive for local residents. I know a lot of people go out to the estuary. I know I've seen people, although most of the time the licenses plates have been out of town, at the monument to the Black Regiment that is on West Main Road. But I think, these would be part of the community actually being aware of different things and perhaps taking a little bit more civic pride, more sense of being here.
Yeah, they're great ideas.
Oh, by the way, and I love Fort Adams.
Oh, thank you. I'm 7 years so far on the fort, so a couple more to go before I can retire and find something else. Yes.
I don't know, how tall are you? Because whenever I go through the little things, I have to duck. I think Civil War soldiers and were much shorter than me.
Yeah, it is not an accessible place as much as we would like for it to be. So, yeah, but it's a great spot. What do you just in your daily talks with people? What are people most concerned about right now?
That's a good question. I mean, I have a fairly eclectic group of people that I run into on a regular basis. I mean, I don't hear the things that people always say everyone's talking about. I don't have people who are telling me, oh, inflation worries them, the economy worries them. My friends in particular, I mean, certainly are afraid of the attacks on democracy. They're afraid of the attacks on individual liberties. Certainly, the women I know are concerned about, the government intrusion into their personal lives, into their personal medical. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a human rights issue. It shouldn't be just, a woman's issue. I mean, if the government says they can do that, then there are any number of things that the government can do. And friends of mine are concerned about issues like that. Certainly, friends of mine are very interested or concerned about limiting the access to literature, to books, to music, to art, which, is under attack. It sounds like hyperbole sometimes, but it is legitimately true. They are not burning them, but they are banning them. Any number of books, many of which, I have enjoyed in my youth, some of which I never knew of, but they were now the newer books talking about the, coming of age as a gay man, a gay child, a trans child, coming of age in this country, which, all of the issues seem to be, this real fear and this, problem with self-worth, which is always a problem with adolescents, made much worse by people essentially, not liking them because of who they are. Yeah. And I find that extremely problematic. There are strings of, racism and anti-Semitism that have to be pointed out and have to be. And again, people I know and care about despise that. I mean, there are some things which not to hate is reprehensible, and not hating anti-Semitism and not hating racism is reprehensible. So my friends talk about that. Now, more mundane issues, potholes on West Main Road, potholes on East Main Road. Those are state roads.
Yep.
So it's not really something that the town can undertake any real issue. I think there's always concern about, unfortunately, there is a fourth time. People, because of media, and this isn't a blame, it's just we now have a nationwide and perhaps even worldwide media. So you are aware that somebody went in with a knife and killed people in Ogden, Utah. All right. When I was in the legislature, people would come in and say, there was a drive-by shooting, and we got to do something about it. I said, I'm in Portsmouth. We don't even have any place for people to congregate. So nobody's going to get shot on any sort of drive-by. So it's nothing for my community to necessary. So you people from the urban communities, tell me what you want. But really, it was always the kind of the rurals and the suburbans coming, oh, we got to do that. We got to enhance penalties. We got to put people in jail. And it's like, well, you know something, it ain't really happening to you. So let's find out from people where it happened, what's going on, and what we can do about it. And everybody's solution was always to enhance penalties and do criminal laws and things. I was a lawyer. I did criminal work. I knew that wasn't a solution. Anybody that suggests to you that enhanced penalties have ever been demonstrated to be a solution to current crime knows nothing about why people commit crimes, how they do it, what they're thinking, which is by and large nothing. I mean, there has not been one kid that I ever dealt with that told me, that I said to him, didn't you know there was a 1 year, $2,000 fine for that? It's like, no, that wasn't, I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know, so.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I want to go back to, I think it's a good opportunity to remind people, when you talk about banning of the books and CRT and all of that, we don't have to look far from the Quinnipiac Island. I mean, one of our writers, he's written about it for us. It's happening in Westerly. It's happening in the western parts of the state. So a lot of those things, when candidates bring it up, I like to point out because they're like, oh, that doesn't happen here. That's happening in Arkansas. That's happening across the bridge.
Yep.
And I just want to take this opportunity to remind people that when candidates say this, they're talking about within our state lines. It's happening.
And I think in every time, in every place, you have to stand up for it, even if it's not necessarily happening where you are. I mean, it just has to always be reminded. I think we found out the fragility of everything, in the recent past. And I think too many of us used to let people say certain things. The term politically correct used to be kind of a polite way to say to somebody that they had done something offensive. Instead of calling them racist, we said, it's not politically correct to call that. Well, we should have probably called them racist because then they got the opportunity to make this whole thing about politically correct when the issue was we were just kind of trying to be nice and not point out you were a dork. So, and it is everywhere. I think anytime you don't stand up against it, you're endangering it.
That's it. Man, time is flying by here. Remind us why people will be making the right choice when they fill in a bubble next to your name for Portsmouth Town Council.
Well, I think I have a lot of experience. I think I have the ability, regardless of who gets elected. I hope it's going to be the Democrats, but I always had the ability to work well with everyone. I am known as a pretty adamant person, but when I first ran for state rep, just quickly, I had a fundraiser, one of the first kind of things like this and I had 3 of the 4 Republicans who I served with came to my fundraiser. And I was running as a Democrat against a Republican who I actually was pretty friendly with. But they came to a point where one of my friends was sitting and goes, Charlie, what the heck's going on here? You got more Republicans in this room than Democrats. I said, I'm just a nice guy. So I think I have a lot of experience. I think I can bring that. I think I have the ability to talk with people, to people, about things that are going on in a way that they feel comfortable, both questioning me on and understanding. So I think I would be a good person to be in office.
Excellent. You can read more of your experience and background on portsmouthdemocrats.com. There's probably contact information on there as well if people want to talk to you before they vote. And, voting is underway, and people have until close of day on November 8th to fill in ballots.
I already voted.
You already voted?
I already voted.
You already went to the Board of Canvassers at Portsmouth Town Hall and got it done?
Actually, I sent in an application and got it by mail.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's easy, convenient.
All I ask for is people to kind of know what's going to be on there before they walk in, and don't get in there and play the guessing game of what name sounds nicer when filling in bubbles. So that's why we do these. This is why I'm putting.
And it's great. And on the back, I don't know if you're going to do it, but there are 3 bond issues.
Yes.
And if you've ever been over to the Bay campus at URI, it's a great place. It's a great asset for our state. It's really a good idea to support it. There's an environmental bond issue also there, and I believe a transportation. I recommend that people support all of them. You need to invest in the infrastructure in order for it to be here for the following generation, then for us.
That's it. Senator Oyer, who we had on yesterday, talked a lot about the environmental bond question. So if anybody wants to hear more about that and why it's a good reason to support it, you could find her interview on whatsupnuke.com as well. So, all right, Charles. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I hope hope we can stay in touch after November 8th.
If I'm elected, certainly I'd like to do this again. If I'm not elected, it's up to you.
We can certainly do it again. You have lots of experience and history and stories that we could certainly talk about.
All right.
Otherwise, we'll meet at Fort Butts. And
thank you for doing this.
All right, you got it.
All right.
Thank you so much. That is Charles Levesque, and portsmouthdemocrats.com. And you could go on there and see his full bio and find out why you should vote for the endorsed Democrats on that website. If you missed any portion of this interview, want to watch it again, want to share it with your friends, you can find it on whatsupnuke.com. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on social media. We also are turning all of these into a podcast. And I know trying to listen to every interview of every candidate that you're trying to decide between can take up some time. Trust me, I know. You can download the podcast so you can listen to it while you're driving, walking, whatever you may be doing. So all available on whatsupnuke.com, as well as our full schedule of interviews that are coming up. Thanks for watching.